So you have proposed a bill that would designate Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. What are you trying to accomplish with this?
Well, I think the situation in Mexico is getting very dire, and it's a crisis. Conditions are deteriorating down there, and I really think we need to, it needs more attention, focus on our neighbor and friend to the south, and it's really designed to help Mexico in their war against the drug cartels. In designating them as foreign terrorist organizations, it gives us greater tools to go after them. We can freeze their bank assets, we can deport them even if they're here illegally, and then there's a 15-year penalty provision on top of the underlying offense. So if someone's providing material support to the drug cartels, there's a 15-year enhancement on that. But I think most importantly is to basically call them what they are, and that is that they are terrorists. They're terrorizing the civilian population. They have engaged in political assassinations, assassinating mayors, police chiefs, gubernatorial candidates. And I think in terms of this designation, it will allow us to work more closely with Mexico in what I consider to be the answer to the problem, and that is a joint intelligence, joint special operations mission, if you will. Something like what we did in Colombia, which was very successful. And this has precedent to it. President Clinton designated the FARC in Colombia, the drug cartel FARC, as a terrorist organization. So I think there's a history and lessons learned from that experience we can apply in Mexico. I'll be meeting with President Calderon in Mexico City to discuss this, and I'm hopeful we can move forward to make Mexico safer. We can't afford for them to lose. If they lose in this war against the drug cartels, we lose as well. And if Mexico becomes a failed state and the drug cartels take it over, which is where they're going, then we really do create what I believe to be a haven not only for drug cartels, but organizations like Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah.
It seems like maybe the Mexican government hasn't been too thrilled about a lot of this. With your meeting, what are you hoping to accomplish with that?
Well, this is designed to help them, not to damage them in any way. And I think the sovereignty is a big issue for them, but I think privately they'll tell you that they do want this support. Publicly, in the politics down there, the political will is somewhat lacking. But you can't put our guys down there with one hand tied behind their back. And I think this really hit a true crisis when Agent Zapata was shot and killed down there. So one of our law enforcement agents was killed. Agent Avila was wounded. I met with Agent Avila. He described the scene as just sheer terror. 10 Los Zetas members coming out with AK-47s, spraying the vehicle with over 80 rounds. And this is unacceptable. When they're going after our guys down there, and now we have threat information that they're targeting law enforcement on this side of the border. So I had a hearing on what is the U.S. role in the Mexican war against the drug cartels. I asked the State Department, Department of Defense, and Homeland Security, what is our plan, what is our strategy? And we really don't have one. And I think we need a plan, particularly if we're going to put our people down there. We need to protect them, as well. The next hearing, when we return back to Congress next week, will be, what are we doing on this side of the border, and what do we need to do to better protect and secure that border, which is, I think, is vital to our national security. I was just down in Corpus Christi yesterday. We just got an unmanned aerial vehicle, a UAV, that is doing surveillance missions down on the border. This is a critical asset in terms of getting intelligence from the air, the eyes of the sky, reporting that to Border Patrol and the sheriffs on the ground to apprehend those trying to cross. Congressman Cuellar and I from Laredo have worked very well together on this issue. We both serve on Homeland Security Committee, and we've asked Secretary Napolitano to provide more of these UAVs to the state of Texas. We have 1,200 miles on the border. Arizona has 3 of these UAVs. We only have 1, and I think Texas deserves more.
How much does something like that cost?
It's got a fairly heavy price tag. It's about $20 million per UAV with the system and everything. But what another creative idea in terms of the budget is to get smaller aircraft like, say, King Air, and have the FLIR camera attached to it. So we could have, more of these planes at less cost. And Civil Air Patrol is willing to do this as well. They're a volunteer organization. So there are a lot of creative ways I think we can provide that kind of surveillance that we need from the air.
Governor Perry has asked President Obama for more help on the federal level for border security, but do you feel like the state of Texas itself could be doing more?
I have to say that I think the state of Texas has done more than any other state. I think you talk to DPS, Steve McCaul, he heads that up. They have these joint operations centers down there. I think the state has done a fantastic job. I think it's the federal government that's failed. And this is a priority for the federal government under the Constitution. And I think over the last 4 years, we really haven't seen any legislation coming out to help secure our efforts down there. I have introduced legislation. I plan to introduce more legislation to provide greater technology, down on the border, to provide the manpower to respond to the sensor surveillance equipment, so that we can make it safer. I think, people debate the spillover issue, but the spillover crime is here. The drug cartels are here. After Agent Zapata was killed, a sweep was done throughout the nation. There were 450 drug cartel associates who were picked up, many in this area and in Houston and in Dallas. So the fact that they're here, the spillover crimes here, it's a matter of when is it going to turn into spillover violence, and that's what we're trying to prevent with a policy to secure the border. I see that we're spending billions of dollars halfway around the world. We are in Libya, for instance, and yet we have this crisis on our doorstep in our backyard, and we're not doing, really, in my judgment, enough. We don't have a plan. We don't have a strategy. So I'm working very hard in the Congress to push this administration to come up with a plan and strategy to help Mexico win this effort against the drug cartels. It's just vitally important, not only for Mexico, but for our national security as well. The other national security issue I see, this summer, you're already seeing gasoline, going over $4 a gallon. Actually, in some areas of the country, going up to $5 a gallon. And we need to have an energy policy. We all hate the idea that we're dependent on foreign oil in the Middle East, and it's a very dangerous hot spot in the world. So we talked a lot about that, but there's no strategy, no energy policy, if you will, to deal with that. And I think that, I've been a strong proponent of solar technology. Gabby Giffords and I introduced the Solar Technology Roadmap Act, got it passed out of the House. But at the same time, I think we need all forms of energy, and we need to make it here in the United States and not be so dependent on these foreign nations like out of the Middle East or some countries in Latin America that are not friendly to us as well. That's great. Brazil's going to drill offshore, but why are we providing billions of dollars to guarantee their offshore drilling program and not allowing any of our resources in this country to be tapped into? I think natural gas has great potential. It's a cleaner, cheaper form of energy, and we have plenty of it, and we ought to be tapping into that as well. But if we do nothing and just say, let's just depend on the Middle East, not only are gas prices going to increase more and more, but we put our national security at risk.
Back to the threat from Mexico, we have been hearing here in Travis County, Williamson County, that that drug threat has been coming our way, or it might be here in some form or fashion. Is there anything else we haven't heard about that you have seen recently that's happening here?
It's I've met with Art Acevedo on this and Steve McCaul at DPS, and they are here, and the presence is here. The drugs are going through Austin. I-35 is a corridor, and my biggest concern is what you see happening in Mexico when you got the rival cartels warring with each other and the military cracking down on them. My biggest fear is that situation evolving in the United States. And so, again, it's not only a threat in Mexico that we got to help them deal with, but right here in this country. I'm glad we picked up 450 of these guys after Agent Zapata was killed in cold blood, but I think we need to enhance those efforts here. Part of the debate when I meet with the Mexican Congress, what they'll tell me is, well, look, you're partially to blame for this problem as well. And to some extent, they're right. Our consumption and our appetite for drugs drives this. And of course, there are guns going southbound into Mexico. One plan I have to help pay for some of this stuff is we estimate about $30 billion in cash is going southbound back into Mexico from the drug deals here, and weapons. And so if we had greater, intensify our efforts at the border to seize the cash and the guns going southbound, that would take their lifeblood away from them, it would disarm them, and it would help pay for our operations if we can seize $30 billion.